Okay, so what do we put here? Ibrahim, can you help her out?
Num.
Continue helping out, please.
Right, put a colon at the end, put an enter, then put another print statement, put a print, open quote, put a star, put another quote, comma, end equals.
You're going way too fast.
Empty quotes. Empty quotes. And then close your print statement. All right, so that's for the square. Now just copy that entire bit of code.
No, so
Actually,
run that first, please.
Yeah.
So now you have Mudium, because again, you put num as 5 just now. You entered 5. So I want you to think about Mudium, the fact that when you put a 5, that's saying for I in range 5, and this is saying for J in range 5. So how many stars, Mudium, do you think we're going to print?
25.
Absolutely, which is why you have 25 stars right there. So you do want to print 25 stars, but you really only want to print 5, and you want to print them all in the same line. That's why he told you correctly that you want to use this end equals thing. But after printing 5 on one line, you want to print a new line. You want to put an independent new line. So where do I put that new line? Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Considering the fact that that end equals quote, quote is done for what purpose? To keep printing on the same line. But after we are done with that line, we want to print a new line to go to the next line of 5 stars, to the next line of 5 stars. So where do we put that print statement? Go ahead.
Line 14.
Try it.
You got to indent that.
Just let her see it. Just get rid of the quotation, put right parentheses. Run that. So that's going to put a new line after the entire that's after all 25 stars have been printed. You're saying print a new line. So,
That should be going in between them.
So hit tab and hit tab twice. I want you to see something. Hit tab twice. So now if you run that, that's going to print 25 stars. Each one, it's kind of like counterintuitive what we just did there, is here we said don't put a new line after a single star, and then here we put a new line right afterwards. That was a fail, but I asked you to do that. So now hit backspace on line 14, right there. Hit backspace. So what's that doing? We're saying print right here 5 stars. Print right there 5 stars. And don't put a new line after each of those stars. Then after those 5 stars are printed, you're saying print a new line. So now, and also come put a \n right there before the and. \n. So run that again, please. Okay, so now do what he said and copy lines 9 through 14 and paste it afterwards. Copy that. Enter, paste. Change this to triangle right here. Change the word to triangle. And I want y'all to discuss, as a group of what do you do in here. You may know it, Sean, you may know it, Ibrahim, but try to discuss as a group. What do y'all do in there in order to make that happen, to print a triangle now? And then even after you have a solution, really make sure it's clear and comment the code. Comment it to make sure that it's clear and to explain what's really going on. Go ahead and discuss that, please. Sean, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Any ideas, Sean?
I mean, you can create some variables of asterisks to then add them together, and it creates a triangle.
Because I would just think about the fact we want to print 1 asterisk on the first row, 2 asterisks on the second row, 3 asterisks on the third, 4 on the fourth, 5 on the fifth. So we already have the row number. What variable has the row number stored in it? Kind of.
Num.
No, num is the number of rows. So which variable on line 18, we have a variable that actually stores the actual row number.
Oh, I.
Yeah. And because right now we have for I in range num, I is going to get the values 0 through 4, but we could make a change to this range to get the values 1 through 5. So I is going to have the row number. And with that value I, we can do something here. Think about that. I'm going to go visit another group. Discuss that as a group and try to come up with a solution, please. Ibrahim, go ahead. Sean, go ahead. Mariam.
We've already determined that the second loop is going to be an I-based.
What does it not like? Is everyone, Kulsum, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, can you stay unmuted? Musab, can you stay unmuted? Musab, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to have, y'all should be discussing this. So you have your print statement too much tabbed over on line 12. It should only have 4 spaces in front of it, right there. Yep. So does that work right now and you run that? Okay, so that works correctly. So now here on, first of all, I want you to realize, so you can put on line 12, how do you print all of those stars on the exact same row? What can you add on line 12? Wholesome or Musab? Yep, perfect. So now, okay, so Musab, you can mute it because there's a lot of background noise. So here, now they're all printing on one row, right? So where do we, that is the goal. We want 5 stars on a row, or in this case 4. We do absolutely want the first 4 stars to print on the same row. But then we want to go to the next row and print the next 4, and to the next row and print the next 4. So we need to add a print statement. So click at the end of line 13. And tab over one, hit put 4 spaces. Yep, and make a print. No, I said once. Now make a print statement right there. Put a \n right here before the and. Before the word and on line 8. Put a \n. Yep, no space, just \n. Run that code. Okay, so you do in fact now have a 4x4 square of stars. So now copy lines 8 to 13. Yeah, copy that and paste on 15. And change this word rectangle to triangle. And I want y'all to discuss and try to brainstorm of what can you change there in your code. It's actually something quite simple. What can you change there in your code? It's a small change. It's the tiniest change ever, but you have to realize it. What can you change in your code to print 1 star on row 1, 2 stars on row 2, 3 on row 3, and 4 on row 4? Just try to brainstorm for a few minutes on that. Any idea, Kulsum?
I'm thinking about it.
Well, is there a variable that you have in that set of for loops? Is there a variable that stores a 1 and then a 2 and then a 3 and then a 4?
No.
Is there? Is there a variable that stores a 0, a 1, a 2, and a 3? Look at line 17. If the user enters 4, so the variable integer is 4, like the number 4. If the user, let's say the user enters 5, okay? So line 17, it's going to say for y in range 5. What values is y going to get, Kulsum?
5.
No, but what actual values will it get? What's the first, if I say for y in range 5, what's the first value that y will become?
1.
Actually, it'll be 0, right?
Yeah, 0, then 1.
Then, so what values will y actually get? What are the actual set of values? It'll get 0 up to what?
4.
Yep, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what can I do here, Musab, on line 17? Make it 1. What can I change instead of getting 0, 4? What can I do on line 17 to make it such that y, instead of getting 0, 4, I want it to get 1, 5. So I need to start at 1. What can I change? Musab, any idea? Can you unmute, Musab? I gotta hear you. Give me some feedback.
Still kind of thinking about it.
So what can I change on line 17? Right now, if the user entered 3,
Yeah.
the value y would get 0, 1, and 2. I don't want it to get 0, 1, and 2. I want it to get 1, 2, and 3. So we know that when you say for I in range, right, that we can print different things here. For I in range, I can put 1 value inside that parentheses. I can also put 2 values inside that parentheses.
Is the AC on here? So
Right?
what? Yeah. So 1 comma integer.
Do that. That's a good start. Put 1 comma integer. Okay. So, but that's going to actually, remember, it's going to loop. You can hit mute. So that's going to loop from 1 up to 1 less than integer, right? So it's really going to be integer plus 1. It's 1 comma integer plus 1. Yep, right there, plus 1. Because if integer was 5, you need to loop from 1 to 6. That'll actually give you the values 1 through 5. So right now, y on line 17, the letter y, the variable y, is going to get the values 1 through 5. So think about how we can use variable y on line 18. There's a big hint I just gave you. How can we use variable y on line 18? So the number of asterisks that print per row is variable. It changes. Think about that, please. Even if it's just a guess, I'm going to go visit another room. Whoa, I like it. That is fantastic. What happened?
Or 600 asterisks.
She typed in
Gotcha.
600.
Okay. Whew.
I don't know what number we're at.
That is fantastic. I love it. Yeah, printing to the screen is really the bottleneck. It's really, really slow. So I presume it's working correctly?
Yes.
So can I
He's gonna scroll in.
but can I point out for you some changes that could have made this actually easier? Can you hit stop? So check out, I just want you to see what could have made this even easier. So let's get rid of the word, let's get rid of count on line 16. Get rid of count plus equals 1. Yep, let's get rid of, so let's make it for row in range 1 comma. And let's do num plus 1. So if num was 5, for example, you know that we want to actually print 5 rows, we have to go from 1 to 6. So now look how easy this can be. Can y'all take a guess? So you have, look at line 17. Why is everything spaced over 1?
Because I commented it out.
Gotcha, okay. Well, I'll wait till you're done. Go ahead. In line 10, you need to put an FO. So look on line 17, the variable row, if the user enters the number 5, the variable row is going to take on what values? That's a question for all of you. If the user enters 5, enter an integer, the user enters 5, on line 17, the variable row, it will get what values? What are the range of values row will get?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. So we can use that variable row on line 18 for column in range what? What can you put there? The first row we want to print 1 star. The next row, we want to print 2 stars. The next row, we want to print 3 stars.
Row plus 1.
So we'll
Put
check
row
that out.
plus 1.
But you don't even need to put 0. You can put just row. So notice, because row starts with 1. Go ahead and run that if you want real quick. So here, think about that row started with the value 1, right? Chloe, you had mentioned that rows going to get the value 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, if num was 5. So now we're saying for column on line 18, for column in range 1, print a star. Then for column in range 2, print 2 stars. Then for column in range 3, we print 3 stars, and so on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
David, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Jonathan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is one, I'll tell you the truth. The first time you solve this, it is not easy to think about. And we can get all kinds of different shapes. You're going to see in the replets, if you've taken a look at them, there's several different shapes to print using these concepts. And they're definitely brain teasers. Some of them you really have to spend maybe 15, 20 minutes on just to print a certain shape, because you have to really just really rack your mind on how you do it. So nicely done. You had a solution without even seeing this one, but I wanted to show you one where you can actually use, the goal was to use that variable here. And that was successfully done. So nicely done. I'm gonna go visit the last group. I'll be right back.
Okay. And here. So I'm pasting a file.
What do we have here?
I do not see file.
Right,
Hold on
let's
a
delete the
second.
first line.
No, just what's going on with the code?
No, the code's working. I was just sending her a commented version.
That works just fine. Okay,
Right, delete the first line.
nicely done. Okay, I think all of the rooms are done. I'm gonna go back to the main room.
Muted.
So due to time, I'm not going to have y'all show your solutions, but you can see the solutions on the video. All 3 of you did successfully solve this. Here's the solution that I had written up prior to visiting you all within your rooms. I see there's a chat and it's still loading. So Musab, hit stop. Yeah, that would be my suggestion, just hit stop. So for I in range, 1 comma num plus 1, if the user entered 5, this is really basically going to say for I in range 1 comma 6. It would get the values 1 through 5. And here we're going to, so this inner loop, the idea of this problem was just to see an example of where this inner loop right here, listen carefully, the idea of this particular problem was to see an example of where the inner loop looped a variable number of times, where this inner loop iterated a variable number of times. So since I right here, if the user enters 5, I is going to get the values 1, 2, 3, 4. If the user entered 5, the user would get the values 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I would get the values 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now this inner loop is going to loop a variable number of times. When I is 1, this inner loop for j in range 1, it'll loop 1 time. And it prints and it's done. So then I becomes 2. And this inner loop will iterate 2 times for j in range 2, because I is 2. Then I becomes 3. Right? I becomes 3 now, because I is going to get the values 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when I gets the value 3, this inner loop will say for j in range I, but I is now 3. So this will be for j in range 3. It'll print 3 stars. And then finally, when I becomes 4, this inner loop will effectively be for j in range 4, and it'll print 4 stars. So the idea of this problem, as mentioned, I'm stating it again, was to see an example where the inner loop iterated a variable number of times. And you will see on the replets, I'll tell you, for good students, like even over the last year, I think about maybe my strongest student that I've had in college. Even he said to me jokingly, he said he hated these problems because they really are like brain teasers, some of them. Now this one, I mean, it's hard because it's the first time you've done it. But once you do this, when you do a second one, the first few aren't that bad, but you're going to see on the replets, at the latter part of the replets, I probably have maybe 5 or 6 of these. And yeah, they get challenging to think about, of how to actually, what to do, what order to do, where to use what variable. And it should not be a guessing game. You should really be thinking about it. And when you do it successfully and you struggle through it, I guarantee you, you're making a lot of great connections, in your mind of how to solve these type of problems. And it really helps the new programmer learn nested for loops and learn how and when to use the various indices or various references, variables within these for loops to help you get, do I need to loop 2 times on this row, 3 times on this row? Where do I get that variable from? Oh, I get it from the loop above me. And doing these replets will really help ingrain all of those concepts. So we have several more examples of this particular module to cover, but really there's only one more topic that is to be covered. And that topic is the idea of break and continue. So let me scroll way ahead, and I'm going to come to break and continue, and then we'll go practice a couple more problems. Because this is going to be the last session we have on loops. And then next week on Tuesday, we will start functions. So here, we've already covered briefly break. Can someone tell me how we use break and what does it do? Anyone, quickly? Anyone? Whoever knows an answer.
Break is like where you have like if the user enters a certain number, then it stops the loop.
Perfect. And I'm not sure, somewhere we did this example. Oh no, I don't remember where it was. Clearly it wasn't, maybe it wasn't here, or maybe it was. Let me scroll up. These are all for loops, and nope. Let's see, I think we had this one. What was this? While correct count is less than 5, we are here after the loop. So in this example, hypothetically, I think we wanted to ask the user to loop a certain number of times. Instead of putting, the idea of a break is we could say while true, and then we do stuff. So do stuff here in the loop, okay? And then whenever we want to exit the loop, so to exit the loop, we make an if statement followed by a break. So I could say if, if number correct equals 5. Let's say that we had to count the number of correct questions. And once the number correct was 5, we exit the loop, just as an example. So yeah, exactly as you had stated. I think that was Rebecca or Chloe. I didn't see who popped up. But as soon as the user, as soon as some Boolean expression evaluates to true within this while true loop, you have an if statement followed by a Boolean expression. And if that Boolean expression evaluates to true, we can break and we can exit out of the loop. So I introduced this above. Let me go to it very quickly. It was before the for loop. 1 second. Controlling while loops. I think it was right here. So here, the idea that I say if this was, remember we asked the user to keep entering values until it's a 0, and we were adding it to sum and we were counting how many values they entered. So instead of doing it, we solved that 2 ways last time. Yeah, this was the Sentinel problem, so I can open that up. File, sum until Sentinel version 2. This was it right here. So here we just simply said, hey, if the user ever enters a 0, break. Otherwise, add the number to sum and then count it. So we already introduced the idea of break. And so really, I'll tell you, a lot of the people who I know who use while true loops and use break the most are probably those who are on competitive programming teams, because it's just easier to think about. Just to type while true, you don't think about the loop continuation condition here. So this is called a loop continuation condition. You've removed that idea, that concept of what is the loop continuation equation condition. You've removed that from the entire discussion. Okay, and you just simply say, you know what? Let's just make that true. And then here inside your loop, you simply make an if statement. If we're ready to break, let's go ahead and break out of the loop. And some new programmers, or many actually, find that easier to think about and just to do this and put a while true instead of trying to put the continuation condition up here with the while. So this was break. So break simply breaks you out of your entire loop. The other thing that was new, and the final thing that was new on here, was the idea of continue. So break, again, it breaks you out of the loop. Okay, what does continue do? You can use continue inside a loop to stop the current iteration, if you will, to break you out of a given iteration. So look at this code. This is your break. So here, if you look at the comment, it says that this program, it simply adds the integers 1 through 20 to the variable sum. So look at line 1, we have this variable sum. We have number equals 0, and while number is less than 20, look at line number 5. We're going to add 1 to number. So number is going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 20. And we're going to add that number to sum on line 6. So sum was initialized to 0, and we're going to add 1 to sum. Then we're going to add 2, and then add 3, and then add 4 to sum. So sum is going to get the values 1 plus 2 plus 3, right? But notice on line 7, we put a if statement with a Boolean expression. We say if sum is ever greater or equal to 100, just stop the loop outright and don't even continue. Okay? And so when we do this, we see that it says that number, the greatest number, we're actually not going to finish the loop because the while statement said while number was less than 20, but in fact, we're going to break out of the loop before then. So in fact, number only gets to 14, and when number is 14, we add 14 onto the sum on line 6. So now the sum becomes 105, at which point the statement on line 7 is true. Sum is now greater or equal to 100, and we break out of the loop. I think that should likely be clear if we understand what break is. But look at the similar example with continue. So continue, it does not break out of the loop. That's what break is for. Continue, and this is also the same in Java, continue simply breaks out of the iteration. So while break breaks out of the whole loop, continue breaks or stops the current iteration and then starts the next iteration. So the easiest way to look at this is with an example. So here, imagine once again we're summing numbers. We're looping while number is less than 20, okay, on line 14. On line 4, while number is less than 20. Let's start by adding 1 to number. Okay, so here is number right here. Number is 0. What do? We add 1 to number. So now number is 1. If number is 10 or 11, continue. Well, there's nothing to continue. So we're going to add number to sum. So here's our sum right here. We add number to sum. So now sum is 1. While number is less than 20, 1's less than 20, number plus equals 1. So now number is 2. And we're adding 2 to sum. And we add 3 to the sum when number becomes 3, and so on. Bear with me. So now number becomes 9. If number is 10 or 11, continue. It's not 10 or 11 yet. So we add the number, which this case is 9, to sum. Okay? And now number becomes 10. So notice, so again, 9 is still less than 20. So we say number plus equals 1, number becomes 10, as I just did. So now if number equals 10 or number equals 11, continue. What does continue do? Continue, as you can see this arrow, it basically says skip the remainder of that iteration and then really come back up here and start the next iteration. So now we're effectively skipping that line. We're if number is 10, which it is right here, number is 10, we're going to continue, which means whatever else is left inside this while loop, skip it and simply start the next iteration at the top of the loop. So we have 10 is less than 20. That's true. We're going to add 1 to number. So now number is going to become 11. If number is 10 or 11, continue. So once again, we're going to skip that line and we're going to come up here to the top of the loop. Is 11 less than 20? It is. So add 1 to number. So now number is going to be 12. And if number is 10 or 11, continue. It's not, number is 12. So now we add 12 to the sum. And we continue on with the rest of the code. So again, in the short summary of this is, what does break do? Breaks you completely out of the loop that you were in. What does continue do? Continue breaks you out of a given iteration. And it skips the remainder of that iteration and it goes to the next iteration of that loop. So with that in mind, we only have 5 minutes and I would really love to try to rush and get something else done in these 5 minutes. I wanted to come up here and do the GCD problem. We're going to be out of time and it's going to end up crashing on us and cutting us short. So I won't do that. Do I have any questions from any of y'all? Because we're really done with loops. But if I were to ask y'all, let me ask you to see who can raise their hand and say that they think they need to do a lot of practice with loops. And don't feel you need to give me an answer that you think I want. I'm curious. But who thinks they need themselves to do a lot of practice with loops? I have only Musab and Mariam. That's pretty gangster. Everyone else is like, nope, I don't need any practice. I would say that we all need a lot of practice with loops. So I would say we all need a lot of practice with loops. And the best practice, I'm telling you, those replets, I don't know who has done them. I don't want to embarrass anyone in a positive way by showing that they've already finished or by showing that we haven't started. I'm sure if you can lower your hands in the participant window, and instead if you can tell me who has solved any of the replets that I put up. Chloe, did you solve a lot of them or all of them?
I think I have like 8 or 9 left.
Nice. And those last 8 or 9 get complicated.
Yeah.
Those are the picture ones. Make this triangle of these numbers. But I'm telling you, I promise you, there is a lot of value to those. A lot of
Wait,
value.
you put on some on there where you had to draw pictures?
I thought so.
Mm,
I could be mistaken. I'm still sharing my screen, right?
yeah.
If I didn't, then I need to. Bear with me. Oh, wow. See, I put 20 replets, I thought. And
Did a lot of them were like print the maximum of, like they would give a number and you had to like say what?
No, you were absolutely right. So look, y'all are here because you want to learn. I've already said that many times. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here spending your time. So I don't need to like encourage y'all to do the problems, right? So no, you're absolutely right. I put 20 replets. And I forgot that, and I thought, because I did 2 labs. I did labs 6 and 7 is what I released to you. And I was thinking, I did this very quickly and I was thinking that was it. But in fact, when I teach this at the college level, we do 3 labs of loops. And the last lab, as you can see here, I have not released this. I'll go do that right now. Or is it? Yeah, updated. So the last lab here, you see lab 8, I have not opened these up. So I'll go do that. So yeah, you're going to see it says Triangle Madness 1, version 2, version 3. pyramid version 1, version 2. So it's going to be very exciting, and the sarcasm intended. So actually, it's not 20 replets. It might be like, I mean, how many new replets were opened? It was a lot. Let's see. Oh, yeah. I mean, some of them only take, look, I mean, lab 6, problem 1, sum of sequence. If you look at this particular problem, bear with me. If I hit edit, I mean, all you're doing is read the, I mean, that's exactly the Sentinel problem that we just did last time. It's on the video. It's on the module slides, the PDF at the website. So we've already solved that one. So that should be a really simple one. Most of these were going to be pretty simple to do. Not somewhat simple at least, especially those in lab 6. Find the average, find the sum, list the squares. But some of these you have to think about. But actually, so look, that is going to be 10. So that's 23 replets that I opened. But in fact, so you are right, Chloe, because there are going to be another 10 that I'm going to go open as soon as we finish here. And these next 10, so that's actually going to be around 33 replets. I mean, that's a lot of replets. And anyone who does it, you're set on loops. Realistically, that might take about 4 hours of work. So again, some students, it's for fun. Like the people who they do crossword puzzles. You know, it's for fun, or Sudoku or whatever else. It's like brain teasers. So I encourage you to try to knock as many of those out as you can. And once again, please do ask questions within the Slack channel if you have questions. We have less than 60 seconds, and it's just going to crash on us. So any questions from anyone? No questions? Cool. Bid you a good afternoon. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you all on Tuesday. I'm going to see and monitor who's doing the replet. So I hope you all are trying to knock some of these out. Take care.